Imagine being a 10-year-old who loves to run, dance, and jump out of bed every morning. Imagine one day you wake up to your leg being on fire, searing with intense pain and not being able to move it. That 10-year-old was me, with what started out seeming like a minor injury, but instead it marked the beginning of a life filled with unimaginable pain. Hi everyone, my name is Rania Ahmed, and today I'm here to share with you my journey with complex regional pain syndrome, or CRPS. Mine is a story that starts with fear and uncertainty, heartbreak and disappointment, but ultimately culminates with me channeling my inner strength and determination, which now finds me in this moment sitting on both legs in front of you. CRPS is a chronic pain disorder that typically follows an injury or surgery, primarily affecting one limb. The pain associated with CRPS is not just severe and persistent, it can be debilitating and affecting every aspect of your life. My goal today is to help you understand what CRPS is, the difficulties in diagnosing and managing, and how we can better support those living with this condition. I also aim to raise awareness, educate on the challenges people with chronic pain face, and provide hope and practical advice for those affected. Let me start by sharing my personal story that marks the beginning of my journey with CRPS. Several years ago, I sustained what I thought was a minor injury to my left leg. It was something I expected to heal quickly, like any other injury. But that's not what happened. Instead of improving, the pain grew worse over time. What started as a dull ache soon became a sharp, burning sensation that spread beyond the original injury site. It was unlike any pain I had experienced before. Intense, relentless, and impossible to ignore. At first, I thought it was just part of the healing process. But as weeks turned into months, it became clear that something was seriously wrong. The pain didn't match the severity of the initial injury, and it seemed to have a life of its own. Even more alarming was that I was slowly losing function of my left leg. I was unable to walk, bear weight, or even wiggle my toes. I hobbled around in just crutches until I finally couldn't deal with the pain of dragging my lifeless leg around. That's when I ended up in a wheelchair. My leg would change colors from pale white to deep purple, and my foot started to curl in on itself, becoming claw-like from a lack of movement. I tried to explain what I was experiencing to those around me, but it was difficult. The pain was invisible. There were no obvious signs like a break or a tear on an x-ray to show how much I was suffering. The invisibility made it hard for others to understand and at times I even questioned myself. Could this be in my head? The simplest things, like brushing my teeth or getting out of bed, became impossible. I couldn't dance, I couldn't play sports, and I couldn't do anything that made me feel like a normal 10-year-old. The pain wasn't just invisible to others, it made me feel invisible too. This led to a lot of confusion and frustration as my parents and I sought for answers. We visited multiple doctors, each time hoping for a diagnosis that would make sense of what I was experiencing. But instead, I often encountered disbelief or lack of understanding. Some doctors dismissed my pain as psychological or exaggerated, which only added to my feelings of isolation and despair. Now that you know a bit about my personal journey, let me explain what complex regional pain syndrome is. CRPS is a rare but severe condition that usually starts after an injury such as a sprain or a surgery. However, the pain that follows is often disproportionate to the original injury. The symptoms of CRPS can vary widely, but generally includes intense burning pain, swelling, temperature changes, changes in skin color, and abnormal sweating in the affected limb. The affected area might become extremely sensitive to touch, making even the slightest contact excruciatingly painful. One of the most challenging aspects of CRPS is its complexity. Unlike other conditions that can be easily identified through tests or imaging, CRPS doesn't always show up clearly in diagnostic procedures. This makes it difficult for doctors to diagnose, especially if they're not familiar with the condition. The invisibility of CRPS often leads to misunderstandings and skepticism, not just from healthcare providers, but from friends, family, and even patients themselves. CRPS is often referred to as the most painful condition, ranking higher on the McGill Pain Index than even unmedicated childbirth or amputation, according to Science Direct. CRPS is more than just physical pain. It affects every aspect of a person's life. It can interfere with their ability to work, engage in daily activities, and maintain relationships. The constant pain can lead to severe emotional and psychological strain, contributing to depression, anxiety, and social withdrawal. Understanding CRPS requires recognizing that it is a condition with complex and multifaceted symptoms that can vary greatly among individuals. It's not a one-size-fits-all condition, and treatment plans must be tailored to the individual. The doctor explained to me that CRPS is a rare disorder that affects about 200,000 people in the US each year. However, unlike typical injuries, the pain doesn't go away. Instead, it intensifies, spreads, becoming a constant burning agony that can be triggered by something as simple as a light touch or a change in temperature. Raising awareness about CRPS is crucial because early diagnosis and treatment can significantly improve outcomes. Unfortunately, because it's a rare condition, many people, including some medical professionals, are not familiar with it. This lack of awareness can lead to delays in diagnosis, misdiagnosis, and ineffective treatment, all of which can exacerbate the patient's suffering. My journey to a CRPS diagnosis was long and filled with challenges. After my injury, I saw multiple specialists, each of whom ordered different tests, MRIs, blood tests, nerve studies, but none of them provided clear answers. The pain continued to worsen, and with each passing month, I became more desperate. Some doctors suggested that the pain might be psychological, a result of stress or anxiety, rather than a physical condition. That was one of the most hardest and devastating moments of my life. Knowing my pain was real, but not having the medical language to explain it. Each medical visit felt like a battle, not just against the pain, but against the skepticism I encountered. I was questioned about the validity of my pain, which made me feel isolated and misunderstood. It was as if my pain didn't matter because it didn't neatly fit into a box that could be easily diagnosed and treated. This experience highlighted a significant issue, the lack of awareness and understanding of CRPS among healthcare providers. There were moments of hopelessness where it felt like I was fighting a losing battle. But what kept me going was a hope that someone, somewhere, could understand what I was going through. Eventually, the changes in my leg, the color, the temperature, changes in nail and hair growth, the clawing of my foot, became clues that led to my diagnosis. It wasn't just invisible anymore. It was real, and finally, I had an answer. When I was finally diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome, or CRPS, it was both a relief and a shock. On one hand, I finally had a name for the pain that had taken over my life. But on the other hand, I was told that this pain was one of the most severe forms of chronic pain known to medical science. I was also told that there's no definitive cure for CRPS and treatment options can be limited. The focus would be on managing symptoms and trying to regain as much function as possible. Hearing all this as a 10-year-old was very overwhelming, as I'm sure you can imagine. I went from thinking I had a minor injury to learning that I had a lifelong condition that could drastically alter my quality of life. But knowing what it was gave me a starting point. I could finally put a name to my pain, and with that came the ability to begin navigating the treatment options, seeking out specialists, and connecting with others who understood exactly what I was going through. It wasn't an easy path, but it was one where I could start to reclaim some control over my life. In my case, rehabilitation included desensitization therapy and mirror therapy, which helped retrain my brain's perception of my leg. The physical therapists were essential, but they were only part of the journey. Desensitization therapy involved gradually exposing my leg to different textures and sensation, helping to reduce the hypersensitivity that made even the slightest touch feel unbearable. Mirror therapy was another tool in my arsenal. By using a mirror to create the illusion that my affected leg was moving, Normally, I could trick my brain into relearning how to move and not feel pain at the slightest touch. These therapies required patience and persistence. Progress was slow, and there were days where it felt like I was taking one step forward and 2 steps back. But each small victory, like being able to tolerate the feel of a soft cloth against my skin, or seeing my leg move without pain in the mirror, was a reminder that healing, even if incremental, was possible. In addition to these physical therapies, I had to address the emotional and psychological toll CRPS was taking on me. Chronic pain doesn't just wear down your body, it can erode your mental health as well. Depression, anxiety, and feeling of isolation are common among those living with chronic pain, and I was no exception. To combat this, I turned to mindfulness practices and cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT. Mindfulness helped me stay grounded in the present moment, reducing the overwhelming anxiety about the future or my frustration of the frustration of my current limitations. CBT, on the other hand, provided me the tools to challenge and change the negative thought patterns that often accompany chronic pain. Another key element of my coping strategy has been having a strong support system. My family, friends, and support groups have been a cornerstone to my resilience. They provided not just emotional support, but also practical advice and a sense of community. In a world where chronic pain can make you feel isolated and alone, having people who understood and supported you is very incredibly important. As the PR head of CRPS Warriors, an organization dedicated to raising awareness and supporting those with CRPS, I now help facilitate monthly group meetings and monthly newsletters. Being involved in this community has been incredibly fulfilling. It's not just about offering advice or sharing experiences. It's about creating a space where people can feel seen, heard, and supported, all of which I really needed at the time that I was diagnosed. These people and these groups remind us that while our pain might be invisible to the outside world, we are not invisible to each other. In these support groups, I've witnessed firsthand the power of community and connection. People who have felt isolated and misunderstood for years suddenly find themselves surrounded by others who not only validate their experiences, but also offer their own advice and personal experiences. We share tips on managing pain, celebrate each other's progress, and offer comfort on the tough days. This sense of belonging can be incredibly empowering, reminding each of us that we are stronger together than alone. Moreover, being a part of CRPS Warriors has given me a platform to advocate for better awareness and understanding of CRPS. We work to educate the public, healthcare providers, and policymakers about the realities of living with this condition. Through campaigns, social media outreach, and community events, we strive to make sure that those with CRPS are not just seen and heard, but are also given the respect and care that they deserve. Despite all these efforts, there were still difficult days when the pain seemed too much to bear and progress felt too slow. But each therapy, each treatment, and each conversation with someone who understood added a piece to the puzzle of my recovery. It reminded me that while CRPS might be a part of my life, it didn't have to define it. In the end, managing CRPS requires a holistic approach. It's not just about treating the pain, it's also about treating the person. Physical therapies, psychological support, and a strong network of understanding and caring people all play a role in helping someone with CRPS reclaim their life. And while the road to recovery is long and full of challenges, it's one that can be navigated with the right support and determination. As I stand here today, I want to leave you with a challenge and a call to action. Living with CRPS is an ongoing battle, but it's one that no one should have to fight alone. To those of you listening who may be suffering from this or any other visible illness, know this: you are not alone. Your pain is real, and your story matters. But more than just acknowledging that, I want to inspire you to become a part of the solution. Whether you're a student, a teacher, a healthcare provider, or simply a friend, take a moment to think about how you can make a difference. Educate yourself about CRPS and other chronic conditions, and be the person who listens, who believes, and who supports. To the high school students here in the audience today, imagine how powerful it would be if we all made a conscious effort to see beyond the surface. The person sitting next to you in class, the friend who seems quiet or withdrawn, they could be battling something that you can't even see. Let's commit to creating a culture of empathy and understanding, where everyone feels seen and supported, regardless of the challenges that they face. And finally, I want to encourage you to be an advocate. Share what you've learned today with others. Talk about CRPS and the importance of early diagnosis and treatment. The more we raise our voices, the harder it becomes to ignore. It becomes harder to ignore the realities of chronic pain. Thank you for allowing me to share my journey with you. Together we can create a world where chronic pain sufferers are not just believed, but embraced, supported, and empowered to live their lives fully. Let's be the generation that makes a difference. Let's be the ones who care enough to change the world. One act of kindness and understanding at a time. Thank you, and let's work together to create a world where everyone's struggles are understood and supported.